Hello and welcome back. So do you want to know how not to let your mistakes define who you are? Hello, I am Bea Dominguez, founder of the School of Personal Transformation. And today I have 3 tips to help you to not get hung up on your mistakes. Right, so let's get started. Change of scenery today, actually. I had to escape home. Today's session is inspired by somebody who asked me to cover this topic. I actually was reaching out, asking what people want me to talk about, and this was one topic: how not to let our mistakes define us. That's a big topic, no matter where you are on your journey, whether you just started your self-discovery or whether you are in full swing and finding out who you really are, or whether you are actually in a quite good place at the moment. There will always be things that will throw you off the rail, things that we call mistakes, and really knowing on how to handle our mistakes is really what is important, what is very constructive in our, or can be constructive in our journey. So as I said, I have 3 tips for you. There's probably a whole bunch more, but I'm actually trying to get a condensed video in today that can quickly spur on some energy and get you going on your journey. So tip number 1 is on how not to let your mistakes define you is don't. I love this one. It's probably my favorite one. Don't. You have a choice if you let them define yourself or not. You have a choice in everything you do. So if you have made a mistake and you don't want this to define who you are, then choose not to. You can say, no, I don't want this to define the rest of my life, the rest of my actions, the rest of my week, the rest of my day. This was a mistake and now I'm moving on. It's not defining my identity, this mistake. It's not defining who I am, because that's what definition means, right? It's defining our identity, who we are. And if you don't want your mistakes to be part of your identity, especially if those identity traits are negative, which assumingly they are because you have a negative relationship with your mistakes, then choose not to. It's as easy as that. And I want to say it because to some of you this will resonate and this tip will actually be helpful. And to some of you, this tip is bullshit. It won't do anything for you, and I get that. But since I'm speaking to all of you in all of your journey with all your different personalities, if you are able to choose what you want in your life and what you don't want, then choose not to let mistakes define you. End of story. Don't. Tip number 2. Probably one of the best tips, the more rational tips, people most able to identify with that tip and actually be able to work with the tip, is to understand that mistakes are there to teach us something. Mistakes are not a negative thing. That's just what we started to tell ourselves. So people started to tell what mistakes are. That's the definition. Mistakes got somewhere along the line. But mistakes just are something, are a result of an action that didn't turn out the way you wanted it to be. That's all there is. There is no shame, there is no blame in that definition. There's just a result that didn't go the way you had planned it to go. That doesn't sound so bad all of a sudden, doesn't it? And then, if you can then from there go on and think of your mistake to be something that teaches you something, because it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, the way you had planned for it to go, and if now your mistake is something to teach you, then you can go back to your plan maybe. You know, what's wrong in the planning? Maybe the goal you had set yourself out to achieve wasn't smart. And remember, there's a video out there that I really recommend for anybody watching this right now, and where it sounds something that resonates with you, to watch the video on smart goal setting that includes also AKAFK. So if you can think of your mistake as really taking it something to teach you about yourself, whether about the way you plan something ahead, or whether it's actually teaching you something about your action in itself. If you start investigating about that mistake, if you really go and drill in and can see beyond or besides or despite the negative feelings that you have, this, which usually is shame. We are ashamed for having done a mistake, for when things haven't gone wrong. We immediately start thinking about what other people think, and worst of all, we immediately start shooting ourselves about what we think about ourselves. I should have, I could have, I must have, all all this bombarding of negative thoughts that really are not getting you anywhere. Instead, if you just sit back, take a pen of paper, say, this is what I wanted to do, this is the result I had from doing what I did, and then start investigating, where did it go wrong? Where did it go where did it not go the way you wanted it to go? Was it in your thoughts? Was it in your planning? Was it in your action? Was it in your timing? Where did it not go the way you wanted it to go? And then ask yourself, why did it not go the way you wanted it to go? And then ask yourself, what can I do to change that? What can I do to change what needs to change in the why, in the where, in the what went wrong, right? So if you can think of when things go wrong in your life, the mistakes that happen in your life, and if you can accept that they are actually teachings, you come out of a toxic relationship, and I'd be the first one to talk about this one, as you know, and you go back and go, oh, it was a mistake to stay on so long, it was a mistake to have gotten into the relationship, it was a mistake not to leave earlier, it was a mistake to give all the love to the other person. They probably were mistakes in that sense, because all that energy, all that love could have gone towards you. But at the end, staying on with that person has taught you something. Where's the learning in the mistake? Look for the learning. In my case, I broke through. I found myself. I went on a journey on looking for myself, and I recognized in all the bad where the good was missing. And since the good was missing, I now had a goal in place that I could go for. I wasn't blaming anymore my actions, the mistakes I've made in my life. Instead, I was looking for the opportunities that I created with those mistakes. What did open up for me by living my mistakes? What happened for me? What new door opened for me? What was the key that I had now in my hands, now that I could look back to my mistake and said, well, this is where it went wrong, and this is where I can go now. You create new paths. If you truly can take a deep breath, first of all, and truly look at your mistakes as learnings. And this is something you have to accept. It's really difficult sometimes, because our mistakes can be very hurtful. Being in a toxic relationship or leaving a toxic relationship, as an example, is very hurtful. And and it takes time to see where the learnings are. But if you can start doing that and take your time with that, but especially do the work, as with everything on your journey of self-development, nothing gets done without action. And the action starts in your head, the thinking, it continues with the things you say, and then it continues with the things you do. If you got to do all those three things, and everything with integrity, always with integrity, if you can do that with your mistakes, if you can do the hard work it takes to dig in, you will get results. And the more you do it, the more results you will get, and the easier it will actually become to not think of mistakes anymore as mistakes. I don't see them as mistakes anymore. If something goes wrong nowadays, today, these days in my life, I don't see them as mistakes. I just see them as something happened in my life that didn't go as I planned. I go back to my original plan and say, okay, what do I need to change? Where is the error in my plan? That's all it is. Where is the error in my blueprint that I have? I need to change my blueprint rather than letting the mistake define me and drag me down for the rest of my life. Tip number 3, let me peek. Defining yourself is a little bit more difficult. Tip number 3, defining yourself is a little bit more difficult. And what I mean with that, if you take the statement, how not to let your mistakes define you, well, the definition of you, it'd be very, what's the right word? It'd be very sad, that's for sure, that's one. But it will be also very naive and very ignorant if the definition of who you are is by the mistakes you make. And that's what I mean with it. Defining yourself is a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit more complex than that. There's actually no one answer, I think, to it. And everybody has their own answer on how they want to define themselves. And I think the first statement you need to make in this decision is, I'm not going to let the mistakes define me. And instead decide, what do you want yourself to define yourself? In my case, well, it is my values that define me. It is what I say that defines me. It is what I truly believe to be true about me that defines me. And what I truly believe to be true about me are positive things. Because I don't think I left all that baggage behind, all the negative talk that I had once about myself, that I'm not worth it and I'm not important. Those were not true statements, and instead I let the child define me, the child I used to be before all these limiting beliefs started to kick in. That's how I define myself. I define myself when I think about the bigger picture, when I close my eyes and see who I want to be, that vision I have about myself, when I'm fully blooming, when I'm truly feeling happy and happy with myself and serene with myself, and in that feeling of feeling good, that's how I define myself. That's where I get the traits from that really define who I am. Yeah, does that make sense? Not when I'm going through a rough spot in my life, and trust me, we all go through rough days. I will talk about that on another day. If you ever think those happy, chirpy people that are jumping around in front of the video are always good and have no problems, if you still believe that, and if the news you see about rich and famous people hasn't reached you yet, how bad their lives actually are, when the true lives are coming to life, or part of the true lives. So when you really can realize, there are good days, there are better days. Not every day is a fantastic day, but if you don't let those bad days start to define you, that if you just wait out for the good days, and then when you feel really good about yourself, and let those feelings define who you are, let your dreams about yourself define who you are. You want to be this magnificent, empowered woman who has just found herself, and who is traveling the world and writing a book, or starting a new career, or becoming a mom, or finding her new love. Whatever that dream of yours is, close your eyes, connect to that feeling, or to those feelings, and let those feelings define who you are, because you are already that person. It's just somewhere so deep within you, and they are stuck within you. And by actually manifesting and declaring all these positive traits. This is who I am. This is how I decide to define myself. You are slowly bringing them to light. And this is all what being on your journey of self-discovery and self-healing is. It is a journey. It takes a while, but you're the one who has to set everything into motion. I am here and I'm so pleased and so happy to be here to guide you, to give you tips. But my biggest tip always is you gotta be in action. And for today, if anything, my fourth surprise tip that I hadn't planned on is be in action. If you don't want your mistakes to define who you are, have something in place on how not to do it. And you can use my previous three tips on how not to do it. But the most important tip is you have to be in action. Just sitting there and dwelling on and letting the negative thoughts, letting your mistakes take over will eventually have an effect. So instead, break through those habits, break through that inner voice, that negative inner voice, and make a decision that you do want to get better, that you do have bad days, but those bad days don't define you, and most bad days are often inspired by mistakes that we've made. Something didn't go right on that day, and that just defines the rest of the day. That just defines who we are. Kick through it, break through it, take action, and go for it. Go for whatever your dream is, and let that define who you are. Your determination and your integrity to be truly yourself, and to be committed to find truly who you are on this journey. Right, so that's really for today. It is for today. If you like today's video, give me a like. I would love to hear your comments, what you think about what I said today. I would also love for you to tell me what else you want me to talk about. You can subscribe to the channel to get the weekly updates. You can join our Facebook group of the School of Personal Transformation, where you will be with other amazing women on their journey of self-discovery and self-healing. It is so much more powerful to do it in a group than on your own. And within the group, I continue with the mentoring and the coaching. And other than that, I wish you a wonderful day for today. I see you next week. Bye.